Welcome to today's Mind Your Career webinar program. My name is Adam Sylvain, and I work with the Alumni Career Development Team here at the University of Chicago in Hyde Park. I'm delighted to welcome you to our webinar entitled How to Change Your Career and Create an Impactful Story Around It. Today, we will hear from alumna Amanda Mausner, who has been leading individuals and organizations through change for over a decade. Amanda is a career coach, consultant, and sociologist, bringing over a decade of social and behavioral science experience to help ambitious individuals create a path towards a meaningful life and career. She works with clients to help them clarify who they are, what they want, and how to map a strategy to get there. Through helping others navigate and embrace their unique path, Amanda's clients develop greater purpose, confidence, and energy. Amanda has a master's degree in social sciences from the University of Chicago and a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Currently residing in Brooklyn, Amanda loves finding art markets, watching thought-provoking films, and soaking in copious amounts of sunshine. Without further ado, it's my pleasure to cede the floor to Amanda.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Adam, for that introduction. All right, so let me just move my picture right here. So welcome, happy Wednesday. Today we're talking about how to change your career and create an impactful story around it. This is the Mind Your webinar series at University of Chicago. So thank you all for being here. So I just want you to take a few moments and read the next slide. So hopefully, I can't hear you, but hopefully you're all laughing out there. I know this is a funny comic, but I'm showing this because what I love about this is that this little character here is showing their experience through or showing their knowledge through experience, and that's where we're going today. So hopefully you're going to take a lot out of this and be able to create your own personal story. So I just wanted to welcome you and just share a little bit about my background and my story. Thank you again, Adam, at the University of Chicago and the Career Services. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. So who am I? Well, I did my master's at University of Chicago and I graduated in 2012. I'm currently a coach and consultant, and I help individuals and organizations navigate change and maximize their potential. I blend my psychology and sociology background to lead and inspire individuals through change and make an impact in their lives. And I know that sounds like a lot. It took me a while to get here and navigate my own windy path. Originally, I wanted to be in the academic world, then the business world, so I went into consulting. But along the way, I was a yoga teacher, I was in corporate wellness and startups, and then I burnt myself out. And it was then through working with my own coach, I discovered coaching and saw it as a catalyst for transformation. And that's when I decided to combine my love for coaching and consulting. And I get that strategy, I get the higher level bird's eye view, strategic advising, and also the one-on-one individual impact. And what I've learned is that your career is a 7-layer cake, right? You're just kind of layering on your different experiences step by step. But there's always a common thread, and this is what we're going to talk about today. There's a common thread in everything that I do, and that's making an impact on individuals and organizations by inspiring people to think critically and be more present and helping make organizations a better place to work. That's my story. It's an overview, but I hope that today you are inspired by your own story. And finally, before we dive in, there have been many points in my journey where I doubted myself, burnt out, or I worried that I was doing too many things or too many different things. But that was really my own mind defeating me and not the truth in reality. And so today I want to show you how if you tell your narrative strongly, people will believe you and listen to you. So, all right, let's get going. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about changing your career in 2020. Happy New Year, by the way. Happy new decade. Why are people changing their career and how can you do it from a high level? Then we're going to talk about this important piece called the common thread. which we'll get to shortly, your personal story, and that answer to that everyone's favorite tell me about yourself question in interviews. And then we're going to go into career changers, the case study section of today's webinar, which is kind of the meat of today, and then next steps. So what do you do with all of this information so that you actually can take something out of this and make a change in your own life? But before we get started, I really want to get an understanding of who's here, because you're all kind of in this, black hole wherever you are in the world, and I'd love to get an idea of who's here. So if you could just take a moment and check out this chart. We have 5 different generations here. Check out when your birthday was and identify where you land. In just a moment, Adam's going to, and actually, Adam, you could do that right now, trigger the question. So if we can get an understanding of who's here. And so
Absolutely. Yep. So that question is, again, looking at that, referencing that graphic, which generation are you in? A traditionalist, boomer, Gen X, millennial, or Gen Z or Gen 2020? So if you can indicate your response, I'll share that out in just a few seconds here.
Awesome. And so, like that slide mentioned, it's so interesting. We're all working together. There's probably not as many traditionalists in Gen 2020 here, unless you are, a genius maybe. I wouldn't be surprised at University of Chicago, or a traditionalist if you're just kind of continuing to work. But I'd love to know who's here and get a sense.
All right, so we're ready for to share those results. So it looks like we've got 3 generations represented here. We've got the largest, 43% that are a part of Gen X, 34% millennials, and 23% boomers.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. And we also have one more question, because I'd like to know what your goals are and why you're here. So Adam, if you could trigger that next question.
Sure, yep. So that question was just shared, and again, the question, what is your goal in attending this webinar? So perhaps you're considering a career or job change. Maybe that's something that you have assurance on. That's something you definitely want to pursue. Maybe you're already in the midst of a career or job change. Perhaps you're unsure, but you know that you need some help in career planning. Or perhaps you're happy where you are, but are just looking to get more information.
So this is super helpful, just to get an idea of who's out there. Let's see what's up.
All right, so yeah, we've got a pretty good spread here as well. So 32% who are in the midst of a career or job change, 30% that know that that's something that they want to pursue. They definitely want a career or job change. 30% that are considering that option. We've got 3% that aren't sure, but are looking for help of some kind, and then 5% that are pretty happy where they are, but looking forward to the presentation.
Amazing. So it sounds like the majority of people here are making a change, which brings us to the next slide. There we go. So change is happening. So this is a perfect segue. We know, if you are, here in 2020, you know that, we're likely to change our jobs and our careers, and this is becoming more and more normal. If you look around, you know that either yourself or someone you know has been changing their career or is in a career change, and it's just more common today. And so let's just kind of check out some of these statistics that might paint the picture of what's going on. 91% of millennials expect to stay in a job 3 years or less. I wouldn't be surprised if that's even more, and that extends to other generations now in 2020. Millennials who graduated from 2006 to 2010 are on track to surpass 4 job changes by age of 32. The median employee tenure was 4.3 years for men and 4 years for women from the 2018 report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And the average person changes jobs 10 to 15 times during his or her career. And so whether or not you want to change, have a major change or a minor change, this presentation is for you because it will help you move into that next chapter. And so we know that people are creating multiple chapters over their lifetime. And so this will help you regardless of where you'll at, you'll be able to take something away. All right, so why are people changing jobs? Why are people changing careers? So based on my experience as a coach and as a career changer myself, I came up with this list. It's probably not exhaustive, but these are the main things that I see why people want to make a change. The first one being, this unhappiness, this dissatisfaction, for whatever reason, but feeling like, you're just not happy. And whether it's been years or months, you're unfulfilled, you need to make a change. You feel that pit in your stomach when you go to work and it's time for a change, right? The next one is, pretty big because, we choose our careers and our majors when we're 18, 19, and a lot of times you kind of, then you work in that field for 5, 10, 15 years and you realize it just wasn't the right fit. You didn't know who you were. You didn't know what your skills were, or your strengths at 18, which is okay. And so you just didn't have the right match. And so you're wanting to make a change. If you're here and your heart's beating and you're breathing, which I'm sure you all are, you are changing every moment. And so if you're human, you change, and your needs and your wants change, and it's okay if your career or job changes as well. And that also happens a lot, is that people realize that what they love for 10 years also doesn't work for the next 10 years, and so they want to make a change. The next one is you're not using your skills and strengths at work, so you feel this disconnect between what you're really good at and what you're actually doing. Lack of flexibility in the work-life balance. This one's becoming huge nowadays. People want to work from wherever they want or from home and have that, really that sense of work-life balance. And so sometimes people want to change their career if they're not getting that, especially if you're a parent or, if you're just someone who wants that flexibility to do other things besides their 9 to 5. Sometimes, you just want to make more money, right? You want to learn something new, advance your career. It could be as simple as that. And then finally, we're in a different society today as we were 30 years ago. A lot of the jobs in demand now are more, technology based. And, sometimes people are now wanting to change to keep up with those changes, to, build their skill set that's in line with the jobs that are in demand. And so that's a list. Maybe you fit into that. Maybe you identify with something in there, or maybe I missed what your reasoning is. But if you see yourself here, just know that it's normal. All right. So I love this quote: "A college degree used to slot you into a 40-year degree, in a 40-year career. Now it's just an entry-level point to your first job," which is so true, right? We can't expect to have that 40-year career. If you're just graduating college now, some of the boomers online today might be in those long-term career. So we're seeing that shift, but most people would agree that that college degree now is just that entry-level point on your, in the beginning of your journey to come. So what do you need to make a change, right? What, that we are changing, our society is changing, industry is changing, people are changing their careers. We know why people are changing careers. So what do you need to make a change? And that, this is kind of where we're moving today. I kind of sum up a lot of things into these 5 different categories of what you need to make a change, whether it's a minor career change, a major career change, a job change, etc. This is how I would break it down. You need clarity. So you need to know, and I just want to make a little asterisk. We don't have time to talk about all 5 of these today. That would be many more webinars. So just kind of going to do a high level overview. But coming back to that clarity, what's your focus? Where do you want to go? What's your vision? This is understanding what your goals are. And in order to make a change, you need to know. So if you're like kind of here and you're just like, I don't really know where I want to go, this is where you might want to focus. And that clarity piece is, then you can kind of understand, do you need more skills? Do you need to go back and get a certificate? What is the skill gap? And so this bucket kind of encompasses all of that. The next bucket is confidence. And this might be the most difficult bucket because this is about believing in yourself and believing in your abilities and seeing your value and being able to then communicate that. But a lot of things like imposter syndrome, which is something that I've dealt with, which is not knowing or not believing in, or feeling like a fraud, not believing in your skills, feeling like you don't belong somewhere. This piece is something you'll need to tackle if you're making a big change. And confidence is not something that's natural. We need to build up confidence and even reset it every day. So this piece is also huge for making a change. Resilience is our next bucket. When you're making a change, I'm sure if you're again on this webinar, you've had a change in your life, whether you've moved or you've changed careers or relationships or whatever. You need resilience, right? You need to face rejection and get back up. So that persistence is a huge piece. So you might be resonating with that, working with a lot of career changers, getting rejection after rejection, going to interviews and getting rejection. You have to be able to get up the next day and not take it personally and, just keep going until you find that and land that job. The fourth piece is that connection. This is huge. Networking, reaching out to your network, whether it's on LinkedIn or social media, attending events, getting out of your comfort zone, blogging. Remember, a human is going to hire you. So you need to be able to have that connections with others and just getting out there and talking to people. Huge, huge, huge. About 80% of jobs are not posted online. And so that just kind of shows you the importance of connection. And then finally, this is kind of where we're going today, that personal story. This is who you are, what you bring, how you present yourself, and this is your strong story that's going to weave everything together. And this is what we're focusing on today. So that story is, and again, this is the piece that I want you to be able to leave with. And it's so important, and it kind of touches upon all of the other buckets as well. So if you are feeling kind of stuck in the other bucket, the other buckets, don't worry just yet. We will hopefully get you feeling a little bit better today. So personal story, that's what we're talking about today. What is it and why does it matter? Your personal story is your narrative based on your experiences, your value, and your skills. It's about 20 to 60 seconds, depending on who you're talking to, whether it's on an event or in an interview with that tell me about yourself question. It's really a description of who you are, what you want, and what you bring to the table. This is a piece that I love. So you want to show your value, not just your features. And this really sells yourself. So for example, I can tell you that I have a bachelor's degree in X and a master's degree and a coaching certification and a yoga certification, but those are my features, right? That's not necessarily the value. So when I told you in the beginning, I help individuals navigate change and maximize their potential by doing X, Y, Z. That's the value that I bring in addition to the features. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today. It should feel really authentic and exciting. So you want to, be proud of yourself and it should feel good. And you want to be able to overcome potential objections or questions. If you have a really strong story, people will just kind of be like, oh my God, that's amazing. They're not going to question if you took time off or if you made a big change. They're going to see, wow, he or she is really self-aware and knows how to communicate, which leads to my last point. It shows communication skills, self-awareness, and curiosity. All really, really great stuff. So Adam, you can trigger the next question. So I just kind of want to get a sense of, how you guys all feel about your own story right now, your level of confidence. So Adam's going to trigger that question. Thank you so much.
Yep. So this Third question, on a scale of 1 to 5, what is your level of confidence with your personal story and elevator pitch? 5 being extreme confidence, low being, really lacking that confidence. We'll give folks just a few more seconds to respond, and then I'll share out those results.
Amazing.
All right. We have a pretty good spread here. We have pretty much right in the middle. So 44% would say that their confidence level is a 3, so not overly confident or completely lacking. 3% that say they're very confident, 5. 23% indicate 4, so pretty confident. 23% gave themselves a 2, and 8% said 1 for the question.
Awesome. What a great, good spread. 3 is a good number. They're all good numbers, so hopefully you can kind of notch it up or, get a little bit higher after today, after you do some work. So thanks, Adam. Okay. All right, so now we're moving into the heart of this presentation, and how we're going to do this is we're going to walk through stories of 3 different individuals. And I want you to kind of really get to know these 3 individuals as we get through. These are 3 career changers, so you'll see yourself in one of these stories. And so we're going to walk through their story and how they come up with their personal story, or really how I came up with it, but we'll pretend it was them, right? And so bear with me as I'll share a little bit of their background, and then we'll kind of move forward. So Meredith, we'll start with Meredith on the left. Meredith lives in New York City, and these are all kind of, before I get started, these are all based on, they're all, fictitious, but they're based on stories that I've come across and, people that I've worked with. So just to put that out there, these are, fictitious people, but with stories that I've seen. Okay, so Meredith lives in New York City. She's one of those adventurous, wild souls. She got her bachelor's degree in art history, and her curiosity led her to go teach abroad for 3 years in Korea. Didn't want to work in America for, right after college. And she, after those 3 years, she came back to the States. And because she loves, people and being active on the job and kind of, lots of, every day is different kind of job, she ended up joining this event planning firm. And she's been there for several years. And she's just like burnt out. She has no work-life balance and, working on the weekends. Clients are really difficult. And so she was recently on a trip to Paris and in all the museums and realized like, oh my God, she wants to work in museums. She wants to be that one that curates the art. And so kind of, she's on that path now to working her way to making that job change and, networking and getting back into the museum world or since her academic world. And so today we're going to kind of follow Meredith through her story. Jamie lives in Chicago, and he has that traditional finance and business background. He has an MBA. He has worked in a big accounting firm for 5 years in auditing. He really loves what he loves what he did, but he started to kind of just feel really, stuck and not challenged at work. And his friend told him about this data science boot camp, and he just kind of started to do it for fun and realized that he actually wants to be a data analyst. And because he loves watching, political analysis, and he loves using numbers, but he just needed something more. And so he is looking to now make a change, and it's a big change, not a huge change, but it's a big change. So we're gonna walk with Jamie, and then finally we have Peter, and Peter kind of has the more windy story. So this might relate to you if you've done some bigger jumps. So Peter's in Denver, and he was going to do pre-med because his parents wanted him to do pre-med. He majored in biology, and once he worked in a lab after college, he realized this is not for him because he's actually really creative, and he didn't know this. He moved over to a real estate firm, and then eventually, realized that wasn't for him. Stopped for a moment and said, I never really figured out what I wanted to do, so I'm gonna try to figure this out. he started building a website for his company and realized he wants to be a software developer. So now he's doing that, and he wants to be in the tech world. So we have Meredith, Jamie, Peter. We're going to follow their stories today. So stay tuned. All right, are we ready? So where do we start with everyone? And where would you start? The biggest thing for career changers is knowing your common thread. And I mentioned in the beginning my own common thread. This is how my story connects, and this is how your story connects. So your common thread is your core mission. It's how you want to make an impact. It's how to string your experiences together, whether it's different or alike, into your story. And this is how you will add value to your elevator pitch in your conversations. So rather than kind of listing off things as it's disjointed, your common thread is going to link it all together. Now, I will just kind of say, if you are right out of college or only one job into the working world, this can be a little bit more challenging for you. So, but it's still doable. You just might be focusing on more of your educational experience. So hang in there if you're kind of newer, but you know, it's still possible. But I just like to say, you know, add that in there if you are newer to the working world. So what I want to do now is I want to come up with the common thread, or, you know, share the common thread for Meredith, for Jamie, and for Peter. So, you know, looking at their stories, you know, what we know about Meredith, we know, you know, she's done this, you know, art, kind of has this art creative background. She's, you know, likes to move abroad. She's curious, you know, so based on her story, this is what I would put as her common thread. And you know, these are all examples, and so obviously these can go in many different directions, but I just kind of want to share what I mean by a common thread. Is Meredith creates artistic and educational experiences for others and inspires cross-cultural learning. And so this kind of weaves her experiences together, and so she can, you know, use that in the personal story, which we'll get to shortly. For Jamie, he's this, you know, that traditional business guy, but he wants something more. He wants to do more with data and help businesses. And so his common thread is uses data to provide valuable insights, business insights, understand customers, and tell stories of data. And so this is really strong. This is his value rather than just the feature of his, you know, his MBA and his data science certificate. He can show the value and the common thread in his experiences. And finally, with Peter, Peter kind of has this creative and analytical side, that precision from med school. So Peter designs and builds customer-facing apps and websites with an eye for design and focus on precision and details. And so kind of weaves together his, you know, again, that science background with his creative background as well. And so that's an example of the common thread, but I want to give you all tips for doing this on your own, right? So ways for you to find your own common thread. Write down all of your past and current experiences in a timeline. So you can use this in a spreadsheet, you can do this on a piece of paper, whatever is easier for you. Write down everything you've done, internships, anything, even projects. And then for each, you want to ask, what did you like most about these experiences? What did you dislike the most? What skills did you take away? Was anything missing from your roles, and what impact were you creating? And so this will kind of really help you create this huge chart, however you like to organize things, but I would say get really organized. And then what you want to do is really look at everything and see where can you kind of, you know, be your own scientist and your own almost sociologist and pick out things and patterns that you can kind of create with your own common thread sentence. And so that's something that you can really do. You can also ask family and friends and colleagues, hey, what are my top strengths and skills at either home or work? Sometimes people can see things about you that you cannot see, and so that can also start to help your process for doing this. And, you know, also look at, you know, what are you drawn to you know, in your personal and professional life? That can also help you see, you know, where you make an impact and where you want to make an impact, and, you know, what value you bring. Cool. So now what? What do we do with this common thread? right? You have this common thread. What do we do with it? So this is kind of what we put into your personal story. And so this is that, your elevator pitch or the answer to that question in the interviews that everybody loves, the tell me about yourself question. This common thread will really be a great foundation for you to build out your personal story. It will help with networking, that people can kind of, it's a very punchy line where people can kind of really understand what impact you make. And again, not just your features. It's a confidence booster. You can feel really good. You should feel really connected to your common thread. Otherwise, you honestly probably need to start doing more digging if you're not feeling good about it. It should be engaging and compelling. And you should have an arc to why you're changing. And this is what I talked about in my common story, or in my personal story. And this is something as well that you'll want to add into yours. I told you that I was burnt out, and then I discovered coaching through my own experience. And so that was kind of the arc to my story. And so you want to also think about what is an arc to your story, to why you're changing, and make that compelling as well. So now let's put everything together, the common thread and the personal story together for Meredith, Jamie, and Peter. And so we're gonna talk about Meredith first, right? So we know kind of this common thread is that, your core mission, your impact, and we know your personal story is that elevator pitch, what you want to share to people in interviews or in networking. So this is, and I kind of, this is one of those like easy bake ovens. Obviously, it would take a lot longer than this, but because due to our time here, I'm going to share, an example elevator pitch for Meredith, right? So bear with me, listen up. These won't be on the screen, and so I just want you to kind of get a sense of how you can tie, Meredith's story together. So my name is Meredith, and I'm an event planner turned art historian. I create artistic and educational experiences for others to inspire cross-cultural learning. After majoring in art history, I followed my curiosity abroad and taught English in Korea. I love educating others in a foreign country, but I missed the US, so I came home and was eventually hired at an event planning company. There I was able to gain experience in customer relationships, project management, and business development. But I was missing something. On a trip to Paris recently, it was there I decided to make a pivot into museum curation, which is because that is what I truly love. That's what brings me here today. And that's just an example of what Meredith could say. And this is what some of the things you can pull out of that is that Meredith's curious, so that's her value, right? These are some things that if I were an employer and a hiring manager, that's what I would take away from that. I would also see that Meredith can handle big projects. She was a project manager at an event planning company. She works well with others. She was a teacher. She can communicate, also an event planner, and she's passionate. And she, clearly knows what she wants and is going after it. And she's also creative, which is a really important skill that people often lose sight of today. And so, I just want you to see how you can kind of tell that story rather than list off. Like we didn't say Meredith got a BA, then she did this, then it was a story with a beginning, middle, and end. All right, cool. So we're closing out Meredith. Now let's move on to Jamie. We all remember Jamie. Jamie's our business guy. If I were Jamie, this is what I would say. My name is Jamie, and I'm a data analyst with a background in econ and accounting. My career began in business and accounting, but after 5 years at a big firm doing auditing, I decided to take my career into data analytics because of a personal love for data, for a personal love for data science turned professional. I took it upon myself to take a data science boot camp after I discovered what AI and data can do for businesses. I'm interested in using data to provide insights, understand customer behavior, and tell stories. I'm excited to learn more about this role and how I can fit into your organization. So again, you can kind of see how we weaved Jamie's common thread into his story, There was also that beginning, middle, and the end. And Jamie demonstrates he's highly skilled in finance and numbers, super important. He's a self-starter, right? He took that initiative to get into a boot camp. He takes initiative, and he's growth oriented. He was feeling, and he didn't directly say, he was bored at work, which wouldn't recommend saying, but he was clearly wanting something more. And so he's building his skill set, and he's growth oriented. And so these are huge things that you want to share in an interview, in networking, kind of allude to them in a way that's not direct, but you share through stories. All right, cool. Finally, we have Peter. So Peter is our bigger career changer, and this is an example personal story for Peter. My name is Peter, and I'm a software developer. Prior to working in tech, I began my career in healthcare, where I learned the importance of focus and precision for details. However, over time, I felt this creative part of me wasn't being used, and that led me to my next chapter in real estate, where I built relationships and helped clients find their dream homes. As much as I love the relationship building and autonomy, after I built the website for my company, I finally realized that I want to be a software developer. I was looking for a way to build technology using my interest in logic, my eye for design, and my creativity. That is when I stumbled upon code and decided to pursue this path. I've been building my skill set, and I'd love to show you my portfolio. All right, I hope you follow along. So Peter, again, another story where we have that beginning, middle, and end. So, Peter's making these bigger jumps, and that can seem scary, but you can see how that flowed together because he kind of brought along what he learned and his highlights from each stage. And that also really builds on his story. And, it shows that Peter is really self-aware. He's done a lot of, introspection and thinking about what his skills are. He's multifaceted. He's done different things. He's creative and analytical, which are, two skill sets that are, really valuable together. And he's experienced. So having a lot of work experience is valuable. So if you are a boomer out there, or, anyone who's feeling like I have too much experience, incorrect, that's really valued, and you just have to show it in your story. And so, yeah, these are our three career changers. And so I hope that you can kind of see how we did that step by step. And so I want to just kind of share how you can do this on your own. So we talked about how you can, build your common thread, but I also now want to share how you can kind of tie that into your own personal story. So you can see how Meredith, Jamie, and Peter, they introduced themselves in the role they desired. So they're already in it. They're not aspiring. They're not, looking to do this. They did, Meredith did art historian, event planner turned art historian. That's great. So introduce yourself in the role you desire. You can use sentences like, my career began with, earlier in my career I did, or prior to doing X I did Y, and just kind of sum up those highlights. What I loved about X was this, right? So when you're making that change, bring something really positive that you took away. So what I loved about X was working with customers or sales, right? But then I realized I wanted something else. And so you can kind of have that, create that really engaging narrative. Speak to the job posting / the career that you want and the company you want to work for. This is huge. You want to tell your story. You might have different versions of your story. And so if you know this one company is looking for consulting experience, business development, that's something you want to touch on in your story and show how you have done that and how that's what you want to do. And so speak to the role that you want and make sure it's customized. Demonstrate your character and your attributes. You can see how we did that for Jamie, Peter, and Meredith. That we didn't, they didn't come out completely and say, I take initiative. They showed how they did that. And that's also really huge too. Be enthusiastic and, be excited, share it with energy, and explain the twists and turns in a compelling way, like we did, and do not list off your experiences. So use that beginning, middle, and end. Tell a story. Cool. And so what you can do is now Practice at home, prepare, do that common thread exercise, and also, write out your personal story, type it out, practice, practice, practice. Awesome. And before we move on, at the end of your story, close with what you're looking for. You can see in each of those examples kind of led to, the next steps, or why they're here, or what they're excited about. So close with what you're looking for next. All right. So let's sum it all up. I know this is a lot of information, and so I just wanted to highlight some takeaways if you kind of just take away a few things. Making a change is normal. Sounds like everybody, or most people here, are considering a change or in the middle of a change. Welcome to being human. It is normal. It's okay to feel stressed and anxious. These are common feelings when you're making a change. A lot of it's in your mind, and don't let your mind stop you from, doing something you want to do. And so it's your job to overcome doubt, and knowing that you can do whatever you put your mind to. The more clarity you have, the less doubt you'll have. But if you're feeling these feelings, that's okay, that's normal. Know your common thread, know why you're here, know what your mission is, and use it to create your story. It will be really impactful. People will, perk up and get excited. Make it compelling and own it, make it unique, put it in your LinkedIn profile, put it on your Instagram, whatever it is, make it compelling. Create the narrative that fits the job you want. This is huge. Like I just mentioned, connect to the people you're talking to, and make sure you highlight the skills that are going to be attractive to that employer. Your confidence level will rise with practice and preparation. So prepare, 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 and practice. And finally, life is too short, so do what you want. Don't listen to others. Take time to really figure out what it is that you want, who you are, and go after it. And so I hope, it's January 2020. It's a great restart right now. It's a great time to be alive and to have that, exploration time to figure out what you want. All right. So next steps, do the work, do the exercises. If you're really, really wanting to make, incorporate this into your change, do the work, come up with your story. Talk with your family and friends and ask for feedback. 10 local events. Eventbrite is an awesome website to look for local events. If you're in a city, it's easier. If you're not, it's going to be harder, but you can still figure it out. Check out meetup.com. You can also Google events. So Google, you just type, tech networking in Denver. They'll actually have a calendar that pulls up on Google, and then obviously Google can be used to look up everything under the sun. So use it. Work with a coach. It doesn't have to be me, but that's how I was able to advance my career. And so it's something, if you're unable to do this on your own, something to consider. It can be really powerful. Which brings me to my gift as an attendee. The first 15 people who reach out to me are gifted with a 30-minute coaching session. And so we can use that for whatever you want. You can bounce ideas. I can help you with your story, get clarity. You can ask me questions, and you can reach out to me. I know Adam's going to send out my contact info after. So if you can't jot this down now, totally fine. But feel free to reach out to me. I take limited private coaching clients, and I also work for an organizational consulting firm, Notion Consulting in New York City. And so we do leadership development and organizational effectiveness. And so if you're interested in either, please reach out to me. I would love to help you on your journey and change. And so I'm going to leave you with one more comic. So I'll just give you a few more seconds to read that. So again, hope that brought a smile to your face. If you take anything out of today, back up your skills with your experiences and show your value rather than just the features. And so thank you all for being here. And really appreciate it. Thank you, Adam, University of Chicago. And I know we have some time for questions.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. I know we have a few questions that have already been sent in, but if you haven't written in your questions yet, please type them into the questions box now. We'll get through what we can in the next 10 or so minutes. The first one that we have here, um, you mentioned that it's really important with the personal story to introduce yourself in the desired role. We had an attendee ask, at the start of my story, is it realistic to introduce myself in the desired role if I've never worked in that field before? It doesn't feel genuine to me, even though I'm eager to gain experience in the new role.
Great question. I think uh, so. I'd have to kind of know specifically where you are in your process. So, like in the Meredith story, she started out as saying, "I'm an event planner turned art historian." So that's something you can do. Kind of be creative about it. If you haven't worked at all in that field, I would kind of approach it like that. Or I'm an event planner and but moving into art history or art curation. So there's just a way to kind of describe it in if you don't feel comfortable just saying I'm an art historian without ever working in museums, understandable. But remember, it also doesn't matter. You're creating the narrative. So if you want people to take you seriously, present yourself as who you want to be, and then back it up with the skills that translate into that experience. So there's a way around it, and feel free to reach out to me if you want to kind of dive into that more.
Great. Another question about the common thread personal story. Um, Are these common threads and personal stories meant for resumes and cover letters, or do we need to wait until we're conversing with someone like in an interview or at a networking event?
Absolutely. So I think that it's good to, it kind of depends. I mean, the resume, um, you don't necessarily need to have, your common thread and your personal story on it. However, if you are a career changer, I typically recommend like the little summary section at the top of your resume, kind of depending on your situation. If it's a big career change, I typically recommend writing a few sentences that could include your common thread. Kind of helps people who are going to read your resume understand, okay, why did this person move from this industry to this industry? And kind of again connects it, so it could be really helpful. Same with the cover letter. It kind of depends on how big your change is. But again, it's kind of for your whole picture. It's a holistic view of who you are. So it can help in all situations. But again, it depends on where you are, what step you're in, and how big your change is.
Great. Another question relating to how you form identify that common thread and form your personal story. So, how would you go about explaining career gaps, and would you include career gaps as part of your personal story, or leave that for a resume or later time in the interview? How would you tackle that issue if somebody has been away from work for a while?
Yeah, absolutely. So, career gaps are normal. And, there's all different reasons why someone has a career gap, family illness, raising child, whatever it is. So how you want to how you want to focus on, first of all, it doesn't necessarily need to be in your common thread in your personal story. You don't need to give that information unless it's asked, first of all. Second of all, whatever you did on that off time, you were doing something. You were building some sort of skill, whether it was taking care of a person or yourself or whatever it was. And so remember that whatever you were doing, you were building value. And so how can you reframe that time off in a positive and a valuable way? And so that's how I would ask you to think about that. Did that answer all those questions, Adam? I think there were.
Yes, yep. Yeah, I had just one more question, and that was, I know we only had time in today's webinar to really dive into the common thread and the personal story, but you mentioned those other, I think 4 or 5 other components to making a successful career change. And curious, in your work with clients, which of those kind of core ingredients tends to receive the least amount of attention in clients that you work with? Well, what are they likely to overlook? If you were to touch on that.
Absolutely. Great question. I think the kind of one of the biggest ones is that resilience. Kind of, I tie patience into that. It takes time to change your career. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think a lot of people become impatient and get frustrated and, getting those rejections and getting, people ignoring their emails can just kind of completely, you know, throw somebody, make somebody feel like they're just completely, under the bus and they're not feeling good about themselves. So I think that resilience one is huge, and kind of clumping the patience into that resilience. It takes time, and I think that's really, really overlooked in changing your career. And so hang in there, and that's the more you can kind of just see that long term and get up every day and trust in the process and trust in yourself, like you'll be way better off.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you to everyone for participating. Amanda, thank you for sharing these strategies for effectively navigating career change. I hope this sets everybody up for success in the new year. I want to let everyone know that our programming does continue next week with a webinar titled The Non-Technical Founder's Introduction to Tech. If you are a current or aspiring entrepreneur or startup founder but lack the technical expertise to realize your vision, you'll want to join us for this program. You can visit our events page at careers.uchicagoalumni.org for a full list of our upcoming programs. Once again, thank you everyone for attending today, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Amanda.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.